Welcome to our special Kaizen 40th Anniversary Leadership Series. As we celebrate 4 decades of advancing operational excellence around the world, we are featuring leaders who not only believe in Kaizen, but live it. Today, I'm honored to be joined by someone who embodies this spirit, Mr. Shahrin Abdol Salam, a respected leader with deep track records in operational excellence across sectors, from transport to logistics, and a long-time advocate of Kaizen as both philosophy and a way of life. I had the pleasure of meeting Shahrin during Kaizen Award in Brisbane back in 2023, where he was part of a SMRT delegation that represented Singapore in the global Kaizen competition. What struck me then and continues to inspire me now is how deeply Kaizen is woven into his leadership philosophy. His journey spanned global railway transformation, grassroots services, and digital reinvention in logistics sectors. Shahrin's vision proved that operational excellence is not just about system and performance, it is about people, purpose, and progress.
Thanks, Ferry and the Kaizen Institute of Singapore for having me here. I must first admit that I still have a lot to learn in Kaizen. It is work in progress, therefore I'm deeply honored to be here to share my journey in Kaizen.
You're most welcome, Shahrin. Perhaps we can start off with the first question. You have consistently championed Kaizen throughout your leadership journey. What first drew you to this philosophy, and how has it shaped your thinking over the years?
Well, I first came to know about Kaizen about 9 years ago through the chairman of SMRT, Mr. Sia Moon Meng. He introduced Kaizen to the organization, and to be honest, I initially thought it was a method, it was a tool. I soon realized that it was more than that. It is a culture, it is a way of life. And I kind of drawn myself into Kaizen, and I've seen that actually Kaizen is a way to transform organization. So, from there I just embrace it, and I've been using it as much as I can throughout my journey as in any organization.
And you also once said in one of the interview, right? I wake up thinking how I can be better than yesterday. That is a very Kaizen-like reflection. How do you instill this type of mindset across complex and large organizations?
I think every organization has its challenges and its own set of complexity. But if you have to break that down into smaller components and enablers, you realize that every organization has something in common. It's people and it's processes. And the way to really kind of encourage this as a way of life and how it can be part of our daily routine is to really practice it. Show the team that you believe Kaizen, right? That every single step, every single thing that you do is towards improvement. So it's really about making every day, right, better than yesterday.
Okay. You have worked in high pressure environment like SMRT train, Dubai RTA, and also SingPost. How do you maintain resilience and avoid complacency while pushing for continuous improvement within the team?
Good question. I guess pressure is a good thing.
Yeah.
Diamonds are naturally formed under pressure. So I think the value is kind of how you manage the pressure. Like you said, resilience. Yeah. The key to instilling a culture of resilience is really recognizing that every employee is out to do good. In any challenges that one faces, we must acknowledge that the team members that we have, they want to do good. They want to do good things for the organization, and they want a good outcome for everybody. So acknowledge that no matter how difficult it may be. Second is to encourage them to step forward and be free to explore the ideas, be free to give the ideas. And in order to do that, a leader has to provide a very safe environment one that the staff and the team members feels that it's okay to give an idea. And one of the things that I've always shared with the people that I work with is that every idea is a good idea.
A theme that really stood out from your interviews in the past is when we take care of our people, they will take care of our customer. And this quote I can also relate to one of our customers actually in the agriculture sector, right? It says, we grow our people will grow flowers. So, how do you actually walk the talk when it comes to building a people-first culture?
Philosophy of Kaizen lies deeply in Gemba. And in Gemba, and which I will take very seriously, is that the more time you spend on the ground, the more time you spend with your team members, they will start to feel that whether, where you are in the hierarchy, that doesn't matter anymore. Kaizen tends to break the hierarchy down into a level equal playing field where everybody's contribution matters. And I guess when you talk about agriculture, right, when you are on the ground and you allow people to speak up, people to share ideas amongst the team members, amongst the leadership, what you're actually essentially doing is to allow for 1,000 flowers to bloom.
Indeed, yeah. And so, some CEO, right, they might be saying, oh, I'm so busy with so many demands. How do I do Gemba? Because my time is limited and I have to deal with the board, I might have to deal with the regulators, and sometimes they might prioritize like doing Gemba as at the lower spectrum of their priority. How would you explain to them that? Yeah.
Well, busy is relative, and it gets a matter of recognizing what matters most, right? And of course, different things will have different level of priority throughout the day. An effective leader, an efficient leader will know that all stakeholders are important. Yeah, regardless of whether you like you said, whether it's the board, whether it's a regulator, to a large extent, even the staff is important. The staff are, to me, a large extent, right, equally important as the board, because you must engage them, you must understand what they're thinking, you must influence them, you must talk to them to get them to deliver the organizational objectives. The staff will need to do what's right, just like what the regulator wants. So at the end of the day, all the conversation that a leader may have in the boardroom or with the authorities, it will flow down. It will flow to the people that matters most to making that change, making that improvement. And if we connect all the dots together, then you will realize that you must allocate equally important time to do your Gemba.
Yeah. And ultimately, to the leaders out there, right, you can have a good strategy, but if you don't have a team that is well attuned to the strategy, which is executing all this strategy that you have, it might not really work out, right, your strategy.
True. I must say that walking the ground, is fun, right? It breaks away the monotonous, office environment, right? So it's a good way to freshen up your ideas in the office, and also it provides you with good exercise.
Definitely, indeed. So, what I recall is you also emphasize of the importance of recognizing the frontline employee and empowering them to take ownership. So how, other than Gemba, what other things do you think leaders need to do to create that environment where you have that sort of engagement from the staff on the ground?
There are two things which I feel very strongly in that aspect. One is respect, and second is trust. Firstly, respect. we must recognize that every single member of a staff has a certain positive attribute and a strength that they bring to the team. And every strength matters, right? Next is the element of trust. As leaders, we must trust our staff. If it's not us trusting them, then who? So if you were to put the two elements together, respect and trust, you are a step closer to delivering that exemplary service by the staff, all right? Even you are not there with them. And therefore, you create a culture where the spirit of improvements, the spirit of excellence will exist throughout the organization with or without the presence of a supervisor.
And I think you rightfully capture the essence of that creating a Kaizen culture, where in Toyota, right, one of the key values that they have is respect for people. A lot of time, organization who tries to implement Kaizen, they focus too much on the tools, and perhaps leaders might go Gemba. Nevertheless, leaders might not have that showing that sort of respect, which ultimately resulted in failure in the implementation. Well said, Shahrin. Ultimately, the other thing that I would like to check with you, right, is as industry evolve with AI, automation, digital transformation, how do you think leaders can balance innovation with empathy and purpose?
I think a lot have been said about AI. My view is that AI will only empower and perhaps accelerate the rate of progress of any organization, as well as any leadership or leaders to pursue the organizational objectives. So it is not something that is alien to everybody, right? It should be something that complements. And the key thing here is, how does leaders leverage on AI? To me, it is a tool that helps us to gather better insights and perhaps even prepare ourselves when we do our Gemba, right? You can, right? You can use AI to kind of generate a few broad ideas about what you're embarking, during your upcoming Gemba. And therefore, what we are actually doing is also, as leaders, creating a continuous learning for ourselves, that every engagement that we have with the staff becomes an avenue for us to improve ourselves. So to some extent, AI helps not just the leaders, but also the interaction with the staff. And let's not stop there, right? Because at the end of the day, as you have also mentioned, people matters a lot. Right? You can have all the processes, all the technology, but if the people do not embrace the culture of continuous improvement, then things will stop there, right? So the more we use technology to better ourselves as leaders, we improve our interaction with them, the staff. And if the staff feels that they are more empowered, right? They are more engaged, they are given ample opportunity and are aligned with the importance of improvement, then it is a step towards the good for everybody. So the staff must feel that they are valued.
And you rightfully mentioned about the key points is to leverage on AI to enhance our own leadership capabilities, and at the same time, also role modeling, I would say. Role modeling to the staff that AI is not something that is fearful. I mean, a lot of times when we have new technology, people might have a bit of fear about new technology, right? By you as a leader role modeling the use of AI, it helps to assure teams that this is there to help you. Thanks for sharing that. It's really insightful. You have been part of major transformation journeys. What do you think are the most common barriers to change? And how do you actually overcome that?
Most of my journey in driving transformation, while there are lots of success stories, and to your question about barriers, there's a few which I thought are more pertinent. One is probably the fear of change, right? The fear of change, given that the journey ahead may not be very clear. As human beings, we tend to be a bit more reserved when things are unknown. So the fear of change will, to some extent, retard the rate of transformation. Second is the understanding of the change itself. If I don't understand why I need to change the way I do things, then at best what you get is just, all right, I'll just do because you asked me to do that. And if you do that, and if that's the outcome, then the change, the transformation will be just, it won't be transformational.
It will be just superficial.
It will be, exactly, it will just be superficial, and that's not transformational. What we do want to see in transformational is something that is beyond what a person may see right in front of the person. You want to see beyond. And to do that, the culture must be right. You've got to respect everybody. You've got to trust the team. And with all this very lively in the organization, then the word transformation is not just a buzzword, but it is a journey. It is something that is worth pursuing.
Well said. And a lot of time, I would say, you mentioned about the key point, fear of change, right? Is a key, how do I say, barrier or blockers to a lot of people. And sometimes as leaders, right, we might also not know how things will land, right, if we embark on this change. Have you encountered any changes that you believe strongly this is the right direction? However, maybe you yourself has some reservations about how it would transpire. Yeah.
That's a natural thing that most of us would face anyway, right? I guess it will be very rare that everything will be lined up so smoothly, so nicely, and we just go into an easy path. I don't think that will happen. If it happens, then I think the stars, the sun and the moon are aligned together. The advice that I normally would remind myself is that set yourself a very clear purpose. That is perhaps a non-negotiable endpoint. Because once your purpose is clear, once your purpose is motivational enough, there's a reason why we are pursuing that outcome, then the next steps become a bit easier. Not smooth sailing, but it may be easier. What do I mean by that? Be prepared for changes in the way we do things. As we embark on that journey of change, while we know what we're changing and why we're changing, we must be able to navigate challenges along the way. And part of Kaizen is about continuous improvement, right? Because along the way, as part of that navigation, you may have to change some direction. And every change in direction is not a step back. It may be setting a path to be better, to be faster. So if you can communicate that to the team, then they will embrace every adversity as an opportunity. And with that, you will realize that you will grow, you will progress, even as you make that move towards your outcome. So I see that leaders and the team needs to be very adaptive, needs to be very proactive, and needs to be very open to changes along the way, because that is the only, probably the best way to achieve the best outcome.
And as you speak, I can't help but it triggers me. I've watched this documentary series about Men with Mission, about our founding fathers from Singapore, right? And when Singapore was built and created, there's a lot of uncertainty. And the key thing is, you really have to, the Chinese saying, 摸着石头过河. That means you have to, as you cross the river, you have to touch the stone and feel it and cross. If things are certain, there will not be any breakthrough, right? So, and I hope that the leaders out there is aware of this, because when you are creating breakthroughs, it is unknown. And like what you mentioned, it's about respecting the people, listening to them, and sharing with them about the vision, right? Making sure that they are attuned to the vision. So the next question that I have for you, how do you see the role of Kaizen evolving in a world increasingly driven by data, speed, and innovation?
I only see Kaizen moving far better and deeper in organizations with such technology, with data, with AI, and all this. Reason being is that with data, and if we were to look at data properly, then it will give us insights. If we use AI, it will really help to do things better and faster. And in the world where things are getting faster, right? I mean, if you ask things today, you probably want it yesterday, right? It is moving at phenomenal speed. And therefore, we all need to use the tools that are available to see how we can keep pace with the evolving environment. That said, Kaizen, at the core of what I believe in, is still the people. How do we engage our people? How do we win their hearts? How do we win their minds? How do we really allow them to flourish, give ideas, wanting to be better? That, to me, is not dependent on technology. It's not dependent on AI, not dependent on data. It's dependent on how we treat them, as I mentioned earlier, with respect, with trust, and allowing them to feel that they are indeed recognized, and that they, no matter where they are in the organization, have a value to add to the entire stream.
Well said. Second last question. From railways to logistics, from national infrastructure to community engagement, you have led both with your head and your heart. What do you hope your leadership legacy will be?
I think leadership is a very privileged position, and one can never take that for granted. If anything that I would like to see is not of myself, is of the people that I have worked with, whether they are better, more competent, more confident than ever before, whether there are more of such colleagues around, and lastly, whether or not the people that I've interacted with, whether they have exemplified the values of Kaizen, the values of wanting to work, to do good, do right, and do well, and see more people embracing Kaizen. And if the whole spirit of Kaizen, the community of excellence grow, then I think that's something which I will be smiling about.
And finally, as we celebrate Kaizen Institute's 40th anniversary, what message would you like to share with the next generation of leaders who are committed to continuous improvement?
First and foremost, I would like to congratulate Kaizen Institute for your 40th anniversary. It is indeed a remarkable milestone to be where you are today. And your journey of that 40 years clearly is a testimony of your belief. Leaders of today must realize that they have a role to play in nurturing and developing the leaders of tomorrow. And as leaders of today navigate the environment that we are facing today, we must embrace the spirit of excellence that is built around the philosophy of Kaizen, and something that we must internalize. It cannot be at the surface. It must be something that you truly believe in. And once you have that part of you, then Kaizen, as I said, is a way of life. It is a way to drive transformation. It's a way to drive improvements, not just in the organizational objectives, but in the lives of others. And as I mentioned, that leaders or leadership is a privileged role, I often remind myself that it is important for me to ensure that everyone that I interact with gets the best out of the interaction. And leaders play a very critical role in driving organizational objectives and taking care of the people that supports the objective.
Well said, Shahrin. And it triggered me to also recall this quote, right? That they say, change can only come from within, right? When a change is forced upon on someone, most likely they will just do it for the sake of doing. But when the change truly touches the heart of the team, that is where they start to begin practicing all this concept and this mindset of Kaizen that will really help them to move outside of their comfort zone and be better every day. So with that, thank you for your insightful and heartfelt discussion. And we really are honored to have you here for the interview and wish you all the best to your next journey. Right? Thank you, Shahrin, for such an insightful and heartfelt conversation. Your journey is a powerful reminder that real transformation begins with the mindset, and that Kaizen isn't just a method, it's a way of life. In addition, true Kaizen leadership is about staying grounded in the purpose, embracing change with courage, and putting people at the heart of transformation. We wish you all the best in your next chapter, and thank you for continuing to inspire us with your values and vision.
Thank you.